You tell me when.
All right, how to win tournaments, episode 3.
Episode 3, how to win tournaments. First off, guys, I apologize. We're in our metal building as always, and there's either squirrels knocking acorns on the roof or tonight is raining. So there's always something. So I apologize for some of the sound. I apologize. There's nothing I can do about that. We delayed it a little bit and looked at the weather, and it looks like it may pass, so that's a good thing. So anyway, we have, this is episode 3. Courtney's going to be sharing, so we got a little bit of time to recap a little bit. And basically, episode 1 was about how to put everything on your ledger, on your side of the ledger, check off all the little things. Your hook's sharp, your line is good, it's stretched, you know there's no weak places. Constantly pulling on that drag, constantly checking your line, doing all the little things right. Episode 2, we talked about practice a little bit, and what we said there was basically I ride and look. I want to know all the conditions over the entire lake. So I'm not worried about fishing, I'm not worried about catching fish. I'm worried about knowing all the conditions. I want to know watercolor. I want to know where bait's at. I want to know if they're pulling water or not. I want to know what part of the lake has what. There's the squirrel. What part of the lake has the color? So we've already talked about all this. So for this episode, it's time to sort of get down and talk about how I approach the fish, how I approach the tournament, and go from there. The first thing I'm going to tell you is fishing is about decisions that you make. It's always about decisions. I mean, everything in life can be defined with that probably, but fishing is no different. It's about your decisions. Kenny Rogers once said, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Fishing is the same way. You got to know when to stay. You got to know when to leave. So the whole time that I'm fishing a tournament, I'm thinking. I'm not just blind casting. I'm thinking about every cast, every single cast. So here's what I'm doing. I'm casting to a place. Is there a channel behind me? Am I on a flat? How deep is the water? What's the color? Is there wind moving on that place? And I'm thinking about all that. And the reason I'm thinking about all that is this. If I do get bit, I will automatically hone in on whatever's going on. I will know. And that fact will allow me to run a pattern. It'll allow me to run a pattern. And that's what you want to do. You want to run a pattern. And once you run that pattern, it can end at any time, and you will have to continue to pay attention because you may have to switch patterns. But it's all about decisions, and that's what you got to do. So if I catch a fish, then I'm going to go and immediately try to do the same thing as fast and as quick as I can to get the boat, get the fish in the live well. That's the name of the game. And so, Courtney, is there an issue with something? Huh? Courtney was raising her hand. I didn't know if there was an issue. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. So the best way, maybe I've thought about this, and maybe the best way to explain some of this is tell you about some past tournaments that I've won and tell you about how little things have made huge differences. We'll start off with a fisherman's bass circuit years ago in Lake Hartwell. Greg Lovelace and I, Greg was my partner, we fished and we didn't do any good. We practiced for 2 days, hadn't had any bites. The third day of practice, I decided I was going to do nothing but ride and look. find something different. I went up the Tugaloo River, went into a pocket, and all of a sudden, I found a pocket. The water temperature was about 2 degrees warmer. It had a little bit better color, and there was bait present. I had my jig. I was fishing a jig, except I had a hook bent with my jig. I went in, there was probably 15 piers in that pocket, and I got bit on the first 3 or 4, and I said, that's it. I didn't catch them, but I didn't want to show the rest of the fish the jig, so I just left. So I left, we came back, we decided to come in there in the tournament, and basically it's just a big round bowl, big round flat. Water was about 3 foot deep through the whole flat. Come in, made a pass, caught a limit. They were all 2.5, 3 pound fish. As we're going around, we notice in the middle of the pocket there's a huge tractor tire. And I got close to that tractor tire, and it was right under the surface. You could barely see it. And I mean a huge tire, maybe a Euclid tire or something. It was huge. Greg pitched in it and caught a 3 pounder. A couple hours later, we came back in there and made another pass. He said, take me out there to the tire. I took him out there. He pitched in it, caught a 4 pounder. So we're in good shape after day 1. They're giving away a $60,000 boat. And that's all it was. It was that simple. It was 2 degrees, a little bit different color, and bait. That's it. That's it. Well, that's not it. There was fish there, but that's what caused the fish to be there. So the next day we go in, and instead of 2.5 and 3s, we make a pass. Those 2.5 and 3s have been replaced by 3s and 4s. So we caught a real good limit. Greg pitched in his tire, caught another 4. Late in the day, we come back in there, he pitches in there, and bingo, 9.5. He pitched in and set the hook, and nothing happened. I thought he was hung in the tire, and I laid the net down, and he's like, Mike, get the net, get the net. And I'm like, you hung on the tire. He said, trust me, no. So we won that tournament. We won that boat. All because of those subtle things. Foothills Marina. One of the Foothills Marina, giving away a boat at Lake Hickory years ago. 300 boats on the lake that day, and we were, I think, boat 300. We were last. I see it. Greg kept asking me, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. We'll watch and see. I watched. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I want to go up in the river and fish rock bluffs. And so I watched about the first 100 boats all go out of Wittenberg and take a right toward the river. So that didn't work. And I'm thinking, okay, what's plan B? I'm sure everything up there is covered up. I looked to the left and I saw the marina, and not one boat had went to that marina. And I watched as all the boats went out. We go out last, not one boat had went to that marina. We went to the marina, started pitching jigs up under pontoon boats and around slips. At 8 o'clock, the tournament was over. We won the boat. Once again, it was a decision. It's all, I told you, it's about decisions. And the decision was, I wanted to start where water had not been beat up. It was at that marina. I saw that. And I saw it because I was paying attention. My mind wasn't somewhere else. I wasn't talking to everybody. I was paying attention to where the boats were going. And that's what won that tournament. Super Bass Finals at Grand Lake of the Cherokee in Oklahoma. Went up there, and they said, we got the largemouth bass disease, nobody's catching nothing. And so I'm fishing a jig the size of my hand, a big jig, 25-pound test line. And the bottom line is I wanted to show those fish something that they hadn't seen. Everybody out there is fishing finesse baits. Little bitty jigs, little bitty worms, drop shots, because they had the disease. Well, first pocket I went into, first day, Greg and I went in, and of course we had our hook bent. It was bam, bam, bam. I mean, getting bites like crazy. Went into the next pocket, same thing. Everywhere we fished it, our line was swimming off. Those fish had never seen that. They had never seen that bait. And that made a huge difference. And the decision was to try to show them something that they'd never seen. We did that, and I'll be honest with you, I've never fished a tournament going into it that I had more confidence in. I knew if we didn't win that tournament, something terrible would have had to happen because we were supposed to win. And we did. We did win. But it was something different. That's all it is. Years ago, Ron Sporting Goods up at Lake Norman. The day before the tournament, I'm practicing, and I'm noticing brim nosed up to floats on algae. I go home and tie in some orange and some yellow strands to my jig. Go back the next day in the tournament. I pitch down beside the piers, let the jig sink about 2 foot, like a brim, and I thought the brim would be swimming, so I swam the jig, won the tournament. 10, 12 pounds used to win up there, and I had like 24. It was crazy. Went back the next day, fished another big tournament, same thing, had 22 pounds, won the tournament. So it was something as simple as seeing the brim nosed up and duplicating. Guys, I apologize about the rain. I didn't see this on the radar, so I apologize. Georgia State Championship down at West Point Lake. Went down there, never been there before. Never been there. Went down there, practiced, didn't have a good practice. First day of the tournament, it was a 2-day tournament. First day, go in and start fishing a lot of docks, fish a ditch that runs back through a creek that I'd found, caught a lot of non-keepers. They had a slot limit. The slot limit, it had to be a 4-pounder before it even keep. It was like a 18 or 20-inch limit, and it take a 4-pounder to be a keeper. So we were catching a lot of small fish, but no big fish. Late in the day, at 1 o'clock, went to a pier, a deep pier on a channel. Went to one side, pitched a jig up, let it go to the bottom, picked it up, he's there, 4.5 pounder. Go to the other side of the dock, pitch it in there, hits the bottom, wham, another 4.5 pounder. We go in, and so we got 9 pounds. That night, I looked and studied maps and stuff and figured out where all the piers were that were on channels, deep channels. The next day, I went to those places, and at 8:30 had a limit, and it was a big limit. We won that tournament by $15,000. We won it by 8 pounds, $400. So the gist of the story is this. It's what I've been saying all along. Find something. I'm sorry, I have to laugh. Find something different. Find something different. Look for little subtle things. Nothing big. Nothing big. I told you all along for 3 episodes. It's all about all these little things. It's not huge, big things. It's all these little things, and that's what you need to be looking for. The other thing is, what I like to do is talk a little bit about some of the baits I like, different parts of the year, and let you see those. And in the next episode, I'll answer questions that you may have through the first 3 episodes. So let's talk about starting out in, say, January, February. I throw different baits, but this mega bass jerk bait's one of my favorites. I throw it over deep channels. I throw it over top of brush. I throw it over natural rocks. I throw it over individual rocks. I throw it out into open water, and I work it, and I work it slow, depending on water temperature. If the water temperature is really cold, if it's below 50, you want to work it really slow. If it's above, work it a little faster. Work the bait according to your water temperature, and that's what I do. The other thing I'll say is this. Typically for me, jerk baits work best in clear to stained water, not real dirty water. That's what I'll say. How about that? The next bait is, we're into March, April, and this is something I never thought I would do, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. This is called a milo. I'm pretty well known for milos. And am I going to sit here and tell you every little detail about a milo? Probably not. I'm being honest. Everything I say is the truth. But I'm going to tell you up front, I'm still a competitive fisherman, and I'm going to tell you that this bait catches big fish. It catches big staging bass. Bass that are moving up onto staging places trying to go to beds. That's what I target. I target it with this. This particular milo has about a ½ ounce of lead in the head. And the reason is I rip it up off the bottom, and I hope you can see this. It comes down, and because of the weight in the head, boom, it hits like this. It don't lay flat, it hits. As soon as it hits, I'll rip it off the bottom, boom, comes down. It looks natural. This is a big fish bait. I won at least 3 tournaments this past March on this type of bait, on a milo. So that's probably all I'm going to say about a milo, okay? I started not to show this, but that's a milo. Courtney, can people hear? I hope so.
Nobody's complaining that they can't hear you.
Okay.
So I'm guessing they
Okay.
can.
Is there anybody at all on? Okay.
Yeah, 71 people.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. This is a square bill. I like to throw it also in the spring. I like crawdad colors. This just happens to be a waterwood bait. And I like this bait because it's got a lot of vibration. I've told y'all that a lot. But I throw this bait. I like to throw it on natural rock. I like to throw it around wood. I like to throw it in where a big fish is going to be. Riprap. This is a great bait. I do something a little different on this bait. I throw it on big line. A lot of times I throw it on 20-pound test. And the reason I throw it on big line, I don't want this bait going real deep. I intentionally put big line on it to get this bait to run shallow. And that's what I like to do. And I like to throw this, especially around natural rock, where crawfish live. It's a crawfish cove.
Everybody's saying they can hear you, so you're good.
Oh, thank you. That's great. The old frog. This is my favorite color frog. It's a booyah frog, and there's different things you can do with a frog. Hopefully you can see it. But I want this frog to walk. I want it to walk. And I'll throw it around brush, heavy brush. I'll throw it in vegetation. I'll skip it under piers. And some people will cut part of the tail off, and they say it makes it walk better. And I've done that, and it works, but I personally don't do that. I like these long tails. I think it gives it more action. And so I fish it pretty much out of the box, just like it is. In grass and lily pads, this is hard to beat. I talked about a jig a whole lot. I talked about a jig a whole lot. And I fished a lot of different type jigs, but I'm throwing a jig out deep on brush. I throw a jig out deep on rocks. I throw it around piers. I throw it on riprap. I throw it everywhere. I swim it. I hop it. I drag it. I've won 7 boats on this thing. So, it's my go-to bait. But it's not going to be effective every single day. But it's a big fish bait. That's the reason I like it. It's a big fish bait. And you can put, I prefer Zoom. Ed Chambers, the late Ed Chambers, was a good friend of mine. And he used to give me a lot of Zoom baits. And so I've always fished Zoom. There's a lot of other companies that makes great baits. I like Zoom. I like Ed Chambers. But the way, if you look at this, I use a big salty chunk most of the time. This one happens to be pumpkin. Good luck finding it. I don't think it's made anymore, but I like it. But there's a flat side right here and then sort of a concave side here. I'll take this and put it in the middle about that far. And I want this flat side with the bottom of the head. So this is what it's going to look like. And I'm going to put it on the hook where it's straight. That's the way I want it. That's the way I want it. Match your trailer with your color of water. This trailer is really good in stained water. This happens to be the trailer that I caught the big fish on in the big bass tournament a couple weeks ago at Lake Norman. So that's how I rig the jig. I swim it, I hop it. I knew a guy one time that used to throw it out on drops, jerk his rod straight up and let it glide, let the bait glide. There's a lot of different ways you can fish it. Fish it the way you get out, spend a lot of time with it, and figure out the way you want to fish it. And that's what you have confidence in is everything. You have to have confidence in what you're doing. You simply have to have confidence. And if you have confidence, you'll catch fish. But figure out your own methods, and don't be afraid to try different stuff. You can't fish this bait wrong. You just can't. You can be imaginative and fish it any way you like. But figure out how you like to fish it and what kind of presentation you want, and you fish it your way. And that's what you need to do. I like a popper. This is an old P70 popper. I got it off eBay. They don't make that anymore. And a lot of these old baits, believe it or not, they still work. The trick is make sure the hooks are sharp. See, that's pretty sharp. You see that? When you can touch a hook and it sticks you and it holds your skin, all my hooks are that way. Not just on this bait, they all are, if I'm in a tournament. So, but I fish this. I fish it around bait. I'll fish it around piers. I'll fish it on points. I fish it a lot of different places. Rick Clun has, for years, Rick Clun made a living on this bait. And this one and other poppers, Rico and some of these other stuff. But he did it by fishing it fast. I fish it different ways. I fish it fast. I fish this bait real fast. Sometimes if they'll bite it that way, I prefer it because I can cover a lot of water fast. And I prefer that. That's great. That's what I want to do. But there is sometimes, if you can't get bit, you better slow down and try some different cadence with your bait. Just try. You may find something that works, and when you do, then you got to hone in on that and you got to start doing that. But this is a good bait when the water temperature gets up to, say, 60 degrees. Now, there's people that can catch fish on this bait in colder water. A good friend of mine, John Parker, he loves this bait. He's good with this bait. He won a tournament today probably on this bait. And he'll fish it in colder water. So you can fish this bait in colder water, but I prefer 60 and above typically. Here's another old standby for me. It's an old spook. It's a walking bait. It walks back and forth, and this is the one I prefer. It's called a one knocker. I don't know if you can hear this or not. I'm gonna put it on the microphone and hope you can. I hope you can hear that. I apologize if you can't, but there's one big ball in this chamber. Many of the new spooks today have a lot of small balls and a bigger chamber, and it just basically rattles, makes a lot of noise. I like this one knocker. That's what I like. I always put a feather. Look at that hook. I always put a feather on the back. Why? I don't know. It catches more fish. That's the reason I like it. It catches more fish. And so I fish this across points. Mostly I fish it on flats. I fish it in shallow water. I fish it in 4 foot or less water typically. And this will get you a big bite. I also like to throw it around piers. When brim are on piers and those big bass are up there feeding on those brim, you can target shady places, especially on sunny days. Target shady spots on piers with a spook. Those people don't do that. Let me tell you, you can get some big old bites. Now you're going to destroy some hitting the piers. I destroy baits all the time. That's okay. I win enough money that I can go out and buy some more. I probably shouldn't have said that. But anyway, hey, you got to put the bait where the fish are. If they're up under something, I don't care what it is, throw it under there. It'll either go or it won't. If it don't, that's okay. Go get another. So this spook, that's a great bait. This is actually it's a medium-sized whopper plopper, and this is a great bait. And the advantage that this bait has, it covers a lot of water fast. You can bear down with this bait, and you can make it's probably, I'm guessing, 1.25 ounces maybe. You can throw it a long way on heavy line with a long rod. And a secret to this bait is to fish it fast. Most people just want it, chug it along, forget that. Bring it. The harder you crank this bait, it's not only changing the sound, but it throws water in the air. And the more water you throw in the air, and the more disturbance you make on the surface with this bait, the more bites you get. That's been my experience. So I like this bait in May and June, July, and I cover a lot of water with it. I cover a ton of water. And let me tell you, it's a real neat bite. They will explode on it, and most of you already knows that, but the ones that don't, you need to do it. You need to throw this bait. Throw it across points, throw it on flats, throw it around piers, throw it anywhere, don't matter. They'll bite. And then last but not least, I like to crank. Clear water, one of my secrets over the years has been something in pearl or white. And here's a secret. A little blue or purple on the top. In clear water, this works. That's it. That's about all I'm going to say about that. They will eat this in clear water, especially if they're feeding on shell. This is an old parrot color. That's an old parrot color. In stained water, I like this bait. Now these baits will run, I typically crank 15 to 18 foot places with these baits. That's what I typically do. I usually throw it on 10-pound test line. I will throw it on 8, if I'm trying to get it deeper, but I don't really like throwing it on 8. I throw it on 10. And basically you just make a long cast, and it takes a lot of experience, but if there's a rock or a stump on the ledge that you're targeting, make a long cast. You have to know how far to get away from it, depending on the length of your cast. But you won't, if this is the stump, you want that crankbait to come down and either hit it or hit right in front of it and go over. You don't want, if you come past it, you're not going to catch that fish. So that's what you want to do. That takes practice. It takes practice, and all I can tell you is you need to get out there, spin. When those fish get out there, you'll see them on the electronics. Get out there and learn to catch them. It's not that hard. Once you find them and figure out how to set up on them and make that right cast, you'll catch those fish. You do it a couple times, you'll get a lot of confidence in that. 6XDs from Strike King are good, but I love these baits. I've caught these baits a long time. So basically that's the baits. We talked about doing all the little things right, the methods, all the conditions, and decisions. Decisions, I make them on the fly, and I make the best decisions I can. They either work out, and a lot of times they work out, a lot of times they don't work out. They didn't work out today for me. I fished Terminal Lake Norman. I made bad decisions. It didn't work out. That's okay. But that's what it's about. And over the last 3 episodes, I hope what I've talked to you about and shared with you, I hope it helps you. If you've got questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If you want me to do a question and answer session only, I'll be happy to do that. Or I can answer a couple questions.
A couple tonight.
Okay.
Just a couple.
Okay.
The first one was Bill Chris's parents. They said, what kind of hooks do you use?
That's a great question. Most of the time I'm using Yamagatsu EWGs. And I hope you can see it, the bend in that hook. That's one of my favorite hooks, is EWGs. Typically, if I get a fish hooked on the EWG, he don't come off. So that's the reason I do that.
And then Robbie Mitchell said that they need to hear some tips for winning in the fall into the winter.
Guys, I apologize again for all this rain. A jig in the fall, I love a jig on brush, on piers, on rock. I love square bill if I got a little bit of color, especially in the back of a creek, around piers, around stumps, on flats. But make sure there's bait present. The key in the fall is make sure there's a lot of bait. If you got a lot of bait, if the bait's there, the fish will be there somewhere. You have to figure out where. But here's 2 of my key baits in the fall, right here. Okay.
And then he also wants to know where you get the Milo at.
I told you I wasn't going to talk about the Milo. No, I'm kidding. Allen Lures, I think, made some of the Milos years ago, is typically what I throw. David Winters at Rusty Hooks, a good friend of mine, he has some. He's got a friend that got the molds from Allen Lure, and they're remaking them, and they're pretty good. I mean, I buy a lot from David, and I throw them, and I win tournaments on them. So they're good. So you can get them at Rusty Hooks. You may can get them other places. I get mine at Rusty Hooks.
Joe Mitchell asked if you guided.
message me and we can talk about that. I'm not a guide, but I have friends that I take out. I do that occasionally. If you're interested in something like that, message me and we can discuss it.
Wayne Puckett said, what kind of hook sharpener do you use, or do you just replace it?
I've got a file, just a regular file that I always have in my boat. And if I catch a couple fish, I always check the hooks. I'll just take my fingers and feel them. If one's a little bit dull, I'll hit it with a file. But typically, before I fish another tournament, I want to swap the hooks out. I'm a fanatic on hooks. A fanatic.
Robbie Derrick said, is that better than the Cordell spot?
I like it better. I like it better. I do. The Cordell spot, I catch fish on it, but it's a wider, a little bit fatter bait, and personally, I like this bait better because I like the profile. I like the profile better, the long profile. The spot's a little bit bigger, so I like this profile better. I've got more confidence in it. And hey, I'm sure there's people that would take the old 1 ounce spot, catch fish, have confidence in it, and like it better than this. But that's just me. That's just me. I like this better.
And that's all.
That's all? Okay. All right, guys, before I go, I want to give a shout out to a young man named Keith Porter. Keith won the CBC today, and it just thrills me. It thrills me. I mean, he was on our podcast a few weeks back. I don't know if you saw it or not, but man, Keith Porter's a great guy, and he's a great example of a great father. I love looking at Keith's stuff on Facebook and all. He won the CBC on lottery today, so big shout out to Keith. Maurice Freeze was on here a few weeks ago. He won the last CBC at High Rock, so we want to give a shout out to Maurice. I guess everybody's going to come on here is going to win a big tournament. I don't know, but that's great. It thrills me. Brian Souza was here to tell us about biz baits the other day and what an inspiration he is. I talked about that last week. So there's so many great young people out here right now involved in fishing, and man, it does my heart good to see it. It really does. And for the record, I stunk it up today at Norman. I had 7.81, and Hamrick actually videoed me weighing in.
And this won't be the last time everybody hears about it.
And I'm sure this video is going to show up somewhere. But congratulations to Johnny Parker and Shane Lineberger. They won with 11 and change. And I think Johnny won it last year, maybe with somebody else. But and Johnny loves this old. He loves this old P70 popper. I don't know if that's what he caught him on, but he catches them on it all the time. I know that for a fact. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. Next week we'll probably do a question and answer session if you want me to. I mean, I can or can't. Either way, it's fine. But if you ask me to do it, I'll do it. Otherwise, I really sincerely hope what I've showed you and told you the last 3 weeks, I hope it helps you. Thank you very much.
And if there's any more questions, we'll comment the answers to
Yeah. And again, I apologize for the rain and the squirrel that's dropping acorns. I'm sorry. I can't help it.